It's a sequel to a film that had found an appreciative audience on home video, but that first film also had wrapped up its story so comprehensively that any poor bastard working on the sequel would really have to earn their paycheck. Or not, no pressure. The results are, well...
That was banished from the Planet Zeist 500 years ago.
It's a kind of tragic. Highlander II, The Quickening.
Things don't change, Katana. I like that. After all these years, you're still a jerk.
You're not coming back to Zeist, McLeod.
Today we will attempt to sort out the good and the bad of the 1991 film Highlander II, a film universally derided as an incredibly bad film. It's not just a disappointing follow-up to the 1986 classic Highlander, but it's a film that so thoroughly evacuates its bowel all over the first movie that it has a permanent spot in the cinematic sin bin.
What's your fucking game, shithead?
Shithead? What's a shithead?
The first Highlander film, directed by Russell Mulcahy, starred French actor Christophe Lambert, or for Australian audiences, Christopher Lambert, as Connor MacLeod, a Highlander who turned out to be one of a race of immortal beings who can only die when decapitated. His mentor Ramirez, played by Sean Connery, was killed by the evildoer, the Kurgan, who was himself ultimately vanquished by Connor. MacLeod's prize, as the last of the Immortals, was a chance to live as a mortal human.
There can be only one.
Highlander was a thoroughly enjoyable film that told its story with style and wrapped it up to the point where there was no obvious path to a sequel. That first film only did so-so business in theatres, but gangbusters on home video, which meant there was enough interest in a further adventure of a Frenchman playing a Scotsman and a Scotsman playing an Egyptian with a Spanish name.
This is a good place to stop. God damn! Whoa! Shit! Fuck! Yeah!
The first hurdle, how could you possibly continue the Highlander story? Well, let me tell you what they came up with. 500 years ago on the planet Zeist. Hello?
You gathered together in secret for the last time. You suffer under the yoke of General Katana's rule for the last time.
Well, anyway, on the planet Zeist 500 years ago, there's some form of rebellion and Ramirez anoints Connor MacLeod to be their leader.
Let him feel the quickening!
After a battle in the desert, the rebels have failed to topple the regime of evil General Katana. The surviving rebels are sentenced to exile on Earth as immortal, but will be compelled to seek each other out and knock off each other's blocks. Whoever's still able to wear a hoodie wins the prize and may return to Zeist. We skip past the events of the first film and Bob's your uncle, it's 1999 and the ozone layer is about to disappear, making life on Earth intolerable, and they don't even have the metaverse. Connor MacLeod co-develops a planetary shield and things are looking up. Skip ahead 25 years to 2024 and the shield has become a curse, keeping conditions on Earth livable but unpleasant. It's dark and it's dank. The SHIELD Corporation, headed by this guy, is making more money with the shield not working properly, or something, and an ex-employee, Louise Marcus, and her followers are trying to draw attention to whatever the hell the SHIELD Corporation is actually up to. She seeks out Connor MacLeod, who's not in the mood to do much of anything.
You're nothing but a tired old man.
More than you know.
I want you to leave for the future immediately. Find MacLeod and kill him.
Katana sends some assassins to take out aging Connor MacLeod, who he beats by of course cutting off their heads. I mean, there's a lot of gruesome deaths in this film, by the way. MacLeod prevails and somehow the clock is reset and he's young again, and now he's interested in Louise. Somehow, and I really mean somehow, Ramirez is resurrected after Connor called his name, but Ramirez turns up halfway across the planet in Scotland, in the middle of the Scottish play, the only person there with a remotely convincing Scottish accent. Are you keeping score at home?
There are some people in this world who know when to stop, and some people who don't.
Ramirez gets a suit, gets on a plane, and meets up with Connor, who's been trying to make Louise understand the situation.
You're mortal there, but you're immortal here until you kill all the guys from there who have come here, in which case you become immortal here. Again.
Something like that.
Katana shows up and more or less inserts himself at the top of SHIELD Corporation. Ramirez, Connor, and Louise break into SHIELD Corporation by pretending to be corpses. They get caught in an escape room.
Holy shit!
And Ramirez does something magical to save them and then disappears. There are some shootouts, a big-assed sword fight between Connor and Katana that resolves everything. McCloud gets the prize again and somehow solves the shield issue, and I mean, who knows what's going on? It was hard to tell back in the day, because by this stage the film's ending was probably drowned out by a chorus of voices out in the lobby angrily demanding a refund. You can get your money back, but not your time.
I'll remember this tape for 1,000 years.
Highlander II: The Quickening is a disjointed mess, like the aftermath of a toboggan accident. The script is utterly dire, with awful dialogue, a plot that's insensible as it is stupid, and it's just woeful in almost every way you can think of. It's like that early draft of the screenplay for the movie Backdraft, when it was originally just about people who worked in a factory making baked beans. There are far worse movies than Highlander 2, but we're talking about TV movies or direct-to-video cheapies rather than major motion pictures like this was meant to be. Highlander 2's $34 million budget was relatively healthy for a film at the time. If you look at other genre pictures released that year, you know, ones with lots of action effects, customized sets, makeup effects, costumes and opticals, Highlander 2 had a higher budget than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Addams Family, Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and it's not far off what Rocketeer cost. A lot of the money looks to be on the screen, like here, where you can see exactly where most of the budget went. But then people saw the movie. Highlander 2's US box office take was less than half of its budget. Ordinarily, that sort of piss-poor performance would kill a franchise stone dead. This is why we don't have a whole series of interconnected projects based on the appalling 2004 movie Van Helsing. Van Helsing sucks.
Oh, yeah! Out of control! You and my sister, man, forget it! I should introduce you to you. You can sit around and compare tattoos or something, man.
The story for the film is credited to one of the film's producers, William N. Panzer, along with Brian Clemens, a prolific writer of mostly quality series and movies like The Avengers and Danger Man. Peter Bellwood had co-written the screenplay of the first film and wrote the script for this film. I bet that's an icebreaker at dinner parties.
After all this time, I was ready to kick back, grow old, and die. Then you send those spunks down here. You changed everything.
Russell Mulcahy returned to direct, where he broke so many windows that Highlander is almost but not quite classified as glazier porn. Even with a healthy budget, the producers decided to film in Argentina to get the most bang for the buck. While there are some large action set pieces, some admittedly nice production design and atmospheric lighting cribbing from Blade Runner, the country's economic troubles at the time hit the film hard. Oh, don't cry for me, Argentina! The smell of potential failure during production was so palpable that the film's insurers reportedly stepped in to interfere with Mulcahy's vision. This was a film where everybody tried to end their involvement with it as quickly as contractually convenient. Highlander 2 tries to be fun and light for the most part, but most of the comedy hits its target with all the accuracy of Robin Hood's short-sighted second cousin twice removed, Ronnie Hood. That is, apart from this one scene of a pre-flight safety video. It doesn't redeem the film in any way, but at the very least it's the one time you're laughing with the film and not at it.
Thank you for flying with us and enjoy your flight.
Even a film as awful as this has some good bits. Katana taking over a subway train is well staged, as is most of Connor's hoverboard battle with Katana's assassins. Connor and Ramirez allowing themselves to get shot up in order to infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D.'s HQ is macabre, but works in the context of this universe. It's Captain Scarlet with a French accent.
Time to say goodbye, Highlander!
Why? You going somewhere?
It's just not enough to make this crap watchable.
Shit.
Christopher Lambert doesn't get to play much of anything in this film. When he's old, he sort of seems detached from what's going on, and when he's young again, he just doesn't feel much like Connor McCloud from the first film. As written here, Connor displays little of the charm, humour or poignance that we'd seen previously. Sean Connery seems to have agreed to appear in this film after reading the paycheck, but before reading the script. Ramirez is as ebullient as before, but he also comes across as even more smug. Virginia Madsen as Connor's love interest does about as well as anybody in this film. She's as disbelieving at this shit as the rest of us. John C. McGinley does either his best Orson Welles impersonation or just the worst Orson Welles impersonation. Michael Ironside is playing a role that seems so much like a rehash of Clancy Brown's character from the first movie, you have to wonder if that was the intention. There are a few moments quoting the music from the first film from Queen and Michael Kamen, alongside Stuart Copeland's rather forgettable score. Highlander 2 just turned out bad. A few bright spots here and there are utterly smothered in effluent from the explosion at the sewage treatment plant. Even so, it proved not to be the death knell for the franchise, with more Highlander films bubbling to the surface every few years, as welcome as a blue whale farting while passing underneath your fishing dinghy. Few of these films had a great reception, though none were quite as bad as the consensus for this film. Every Highlander project since The Quickening has basically pretended Highlander 2 never happened. When Highlander the Source ghosts you, you know you've got troubles. One area the franchise did manage to redeem itself somewhat was a syndicated television series, Highlander the Series, debuting the year after this mangled mess stank up the multiplex. Director Russell Mulcahy wasn't quite done with Highlander 2. In the mid-90s he put together what was called the Renegade Cut, and took a horrible film that was mercifully short, recut the scenes, reinstated footage cut from the original release, and yes, somehow made Highlander 2 longer. It was also revisited in the 2000s as Highlander Special Edition, which was basically the Renegade Cut with some CG enhancements and a few other tweaks here and there. The newer version tells the same story, just with a smidgen more clarity to the proceedings. Scenes are rearranged and some extra scenes show Connor confirming the shield is no longer necessary. It's still a bad film. The terrible storyline is still there. It's just structured somewhat better. The original release felt like it was edited by a kid on a week's work experience. But with post-production taking longer than a week, it's a different intern each week.
And now I'm back to square one. Immortal. Again.
Now it flows a little more smoothly, like a sewer after you've unblocked the Fatberg. Can you make a silk purse out of a sow's ear? Not in this case though, this is like a 90s era Billabong Velcro wallet bought at a thrift store. Like many people, I'd seen the first film on video, and I was one of the people excited to see Highlander 2 at the movies. I wasn't outraged, just disappointed, and as a result, from that day, I haven't rewatched this film or any other Highlander project apart from the original. In rewatching both versions of Highlander 2 for this review, I'm really hoping that's it for me in this franchise.
I don't see nothing. Could be fish. Fish live in the lake.
The original version of this film makes about as much sense as somebody cowering in a subterranean concrete bunker after having been bombarded by tons of high explosive weapons dropped by a fleet of B-52s. That was truly the worst vacation ever. I mean, it's just the worst. The newer, longer cut, being perhaps a little better, doesn't make Highlander 2 an amazing experience. But if, for whatever reason, perhaps life in the Boom Boom Bunker has been getting you down and you want to binge all of the Highlander canon and absolutely feel the need to watch Highlander 2,
not again.
There's the Renegade Cut or Special Edition.
No, not again.
But if you wanted to skip it entirely, I don't think anybody would blame you.
Shithead.
Apart from him.
It sounds like magic.
Oh, it is. Kind of.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.